Under the Waves advertises itself as being about sustainability and taking care of the ocean ecosystem, and it definitely is. But the main storyline here is more one of grief and loss. It's about being in denial and running away from dealing with emotions, while also being haunted by them. And ultimately, it's about a choice, or what feels like one, for someone who can't get himself to let go. This is a narrative-based game that basically is a walking sim, or in this case, a swimming, diving, and submarining sim. The game mostly tries to hold your hand so that you can experience the story. But there's some frustrating parts, at least there was for me, where I got stuck and didn't know what to do next. Some of the ones that come to mind are when I was looking for a cave with geological data and I just couldn't find it, or when I had to bust out of a room by ramming into a wall made of planks with my submarine, when I didn't realize you could do that. With the help of a walkthrough, these parts become more trivial, and for the most part, you fall into the story, which is well told and bittersweet. Also, the voice acting is fantastic, and the set pieces are awesome. The atmosphere is thick, the environments are fantastical, and the animals are really well done, giving a real sense of an ocean ecosystem. Along with grief, there's also a theme of isolation in this game. There's a part where the main character Stan says the undersea station he is living in is starting to feel like home, and I felt that when he said it. The main character Stan is working for an oil refinery doing maintenance on the bottom of the ocean. His deceased father Tim is his supervisor, and he occasionally talks to his wife Emma. His relationship with her is loving but strained because, and this is a minor spoiler, so I'll pause here for a second in case you want to stop or skip ahead. Their daughter Pearl is deceased. It's really a heartbreaking story being told here. I did occasionally get annoyed with Stan due to his perseveration on his thoughts. I couldn't help thinking that this dude could benefit from some social life, a meaningful career pursuit, some meditation, anything like that. He was a lighthearted guy, but he also seemed like he was digging his own grave at times. But I understand it's hard to break out of traumatic memories. Most people alive on this planet have felt some grief and have lost someone, so this story is very likely relatable. And you'd have to be pretty jaded, sarcastic, and callous to feel nothing after playing through this story. It does drag a bit in sections and feels a bit melodramatic, and it can be predictable in some parts, but for the most part, it's a powerful and simple story that feels cathartic to experience. The story also has plenty of surreal scenes and elements that definitely feel more than a bit sci-fi. It's described as a techno-futuristic 1970s setting. It even feels like at times that the team behind was itching to make a horror game. There are some pretty creepy parts, and while the sea life poses no real threat, as it is a story about respecting sea life, not fearing it, there is a giant squid in the deep that gives me some chills. The environmental impact part of the story was told well, and I'm definitely a proponent of the story here where it's about the impact of corporations and industry that are more concerned with extraction, PR, advertising, and ultimately profit than workers or the environmental impact or the impact on the health of the population. It deals with faceless bureaucracy, greedy executives, and how anyone working for or consuming from these companies are complicit to some degree. It also has a heavy emphasis on not polluting the ocean and removing all the litter that's there. It's just easier to live blind to the environmental impact of our society, at least until it reaches your doorstep or your body. And this game is a compelling reminder of that. It's a great yarn, but is this a good game? As a game? This is where it falters a bit. It's definitely tedious at times. You do a lot of menial tasks, pulling levers, turning valves, checking computers, simple puzzles, going somewhere to get something. And this is a lot like games that are more open world. This is a small version of an open world game in some ways, but it pushes you linearly. I really dislike task-based chores in games that aren't about learning to be more skilled or about really driving the story forward. I know that this isn't the case for all gamers. Some people just like to turn their brain off and do certain tasks. Some may feel at home with exploring this world, without any time limits, and living in it. Unfortunately, it isn't too cheery a backdrop. The story just isn't the best for chilling and turning off your brain. The heavy themes bring in a lot of emotion. Also, walking speed in this game is quite slow, which is a little annoying. Swimming and submarining work quite well, except when you have to submarine in a tight space, then you'll bump into a lot of walls. There are a few bugs I ran into in this version I was playing shortly after release. They were the camera getting stuck in odd places. This could be solved by moving around. Some screen tearing, that line that goes through the graphics, and a save bug where it said there was an error and this message came on screen whenever it automatically saved, but it was a false alarm because the game saved fine despite this message. This one was particularly annoying though. The game does automatically save, and this error would appear a lot on screen and fill up the screen. Luckily, it didn't make me lose any saves, and usually restarting the game would eliminate the bug. The graphics were okay, maybe PS4 level, but they were used to great effect, and many of the parts of the game were strikingly beautiful or evoke some emotion. Crafting worked well, though not as deep as Subnautica, not even nearly. This wasn't Subnautica, despite the superficial resemblance and some similar mechanics. It was more like Firewatch. I've watched some of Firewatch being played. I haven't played it myself, so I might be off base here, but it felt like a similar vibe. Overall, I had mixed feelings, but I enjoyed this game. I wanted to finish it, and I did. I felt some draw to come back, but I wouldn't say it was addictive fun. It was an emotional experience, so if that's not interesting to you, then you probably shouldn't play this one. If you want a good story that's well acted in a beautiful and mysterious world, and you don't mind taking your time to live in a world and complete the tasks that need to be done, this is an easy recommendation. I would also say don't be afraid to consult a walkthrough at first signs of being stuck. The game promotes an organization called Surfrider Foundation, which is a non-profit association responsible for the protection of oceans, at least according to what I read about it. In my everlasting shame, I bought the game in physical form, adding to the plastic in the world. Oh, the irony. I hate to give this game a simple numerical score. It's a very immersive narrative experience with some game moments that can be frustrating. I liked it, and I respect what the studio was able to build with the resources they had. But ultimately, if I were to give it a score, I'd say 7 out of 10. But the game did dive deep into some things that I think are important for mental health, and I'm not sure this score really reflects that. And it's presented in a cinematic way that almost feels like an interactive movie. So I would say it's a worthy experience for that aspect alone.
I'm in the airlock.
Excellent. Get that suit off and call me on the radio when you're inside.
Just gonna sit for a second. It's this is all.
Hey, take your time. Been a big day.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
No worries. See you inside.